The Day After is the most watched made-for-television movie in American history, a nuclear apocalypse so disturbing that ABC set up counseling hotlines for terrified viewers. But the version that aired on TV in 1983 was not the film they originally made. Did you know the first ending had a man discover his wife's skeleton lying in the ruins of their home? Or that President Reagan watched this film and it pushed him to sign a nuclear treaty with the Soviets? Today, we're uncovering 15 hidden truths about The Day After 1983, including the reason the Pentagon tried to stop this film from ever being made. Number 1. The ending they couldn't show you. In the film's final act, Dr. Russell Oakes, played by Jason Robards, makes a desperate journey back to Kansas City to see his destroyed home one last time. When he arrives, the house is in ruins. He picks through the wreckage and finds his wife's wristwatch lying on the ground. It is a quiet, devastating moment. But that is not how the scene was originally made. In the original version, Oakes does not find the watch on the ground. He finds it still attached to his wife's skeletal remains. Her body, reduced to bones by the blast, was meant to be lying in the rubble of their home. ABC's censors rejected the image outright. A man discovering his wife's skeleton on network television was simply too graphic for a broadcast audience. But it was not just that scene. In the 3-hour work print, the rough cut before ABC made their final edits. The fate of the Dahlberg family was also made explicit. In the aired version, after farmer Jim Dahlberg is shot and killed by squatters who take over his land, the fate of his wife Eve and their youngest daughter is left ambiguous. You never find out if they survive. In the work print, there is no ambiguity. They are killed too. The original ending of The Day After left no survivors and no hope. Every version you have ever seen is the softened one. Number 2. The last 3 letters. The film's final moments contain an Easter egg hidden in plain sight. After Dr. Oakes collapses in the ruins of his destroyed home, the screen fades to black. Then the voice of Professor Huxley, played by John Lithgow, comes over the radio one last time, asking if anybody can still hear him. He is met with silence, but during that silence, before the credits roll, a faint beeping can be heard. It is Morse code, and it spells out 3 letters, M.A.D, which stands for Mutually Assured Destruction. The meaning behind the message is the central Cold War doctrine that guaranteed if one side launched a nuclear attack, both sides would be annihilated. There is no winner, no strategic advantage, no survival scenario, just 2 nations destroying each other and taking the rest of the world with them. The filmmakers buried their final statement about the film's meaning in a language most of the audience could not decode. It was a message for anyone paying close enough attention, a 3-letter summary of everything the film had just shown you. Number 3. The film that saved the world. On October 10, 1983, more than a month before the film was shown to the public on television, President Ronald Reagan watched The Day After at Camp David, the official presidential retreat in Maryland. That night, he wrote in his diary, "It is powerfully done, all $7 million worth. It's very effective and left me greatly depressed." Reagan's biographer later said the movie had a powerful emotional impact on the way Reagan viewed the Cold War and the threat of nuclear conflict with the Soviet Union. It also helped change the emotional atmosphere around nuclear war. The Day After forced him to see nuclear destruction from the ground level, through ordinary families, burned cities, and a society collapsing overnight. 4 years later, Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev signed the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, a major agreement that eliminated certain medium-range nuclear missiles. And after the treaty was signed, Reagan reportedly sent director Nicholas Meyer a telegram that read, "Don't think your movie didn't have any part of this, because it did." Whether or not that telegram was ever really sent, one thing is certain: a single television movie helped save the world from nuclear war. Number 4. The real nuclear crisis no one knew about. The Day After aired on November 20th, 1983. But here is the frightening part. Just a few weeks before the movie was broadcast, the real world was already in a dangerously tense nuclear situation. In early November 1983, NATO conducted a military exercise called Able Archer 83, a 10-day command simulation that imagined a major conflict escalating into full nuclear war. The Soviets saw the exercise and feared it might not be just a drill. They suspected it could be a cover for a real NATO nuclear first strike. As a result, Soviet nuclear forces went on alert. CIA Deputy Director Robert Gates later said, "We may have been at the brink of nuclear war and not even known it." That coincidence is chilling. America was watching a fictional nuclear apocalypse on television at almost the exact moment the real world had come terrifyingly close to actual nuclear war. Number 5. The film that was censored twice. The version that finally aired on television was already terrifying, but the original vision was far more brutal. Screenwriter Edward Hume originally titled the film "Silence in Heaven," a phrase taken from the Book of Revelation. In that version, the nuclear attack was described in horrifying detail. Faces were destroyed, skin and eyes melted from the heat of the blast. Some faces were even blasted from skulls. But ABC went through the script page by page and rejected those graphic images outright. They believed that kind of body horror was simply too extreme for American television. But the censorship didn't stop at the script. After filming was completed, ABC's censors department forced Meyer to cut approximately 8.5 minutes of footage that was still considered too graphic for broadcast. The original attack sequence was intended to show, with scientific accuracy, what actually happens to the human body during a nuclear blast. People set on fire, flesh carbonizing down to the bone, victims in fallout shelters suffocating as the firestorm above consumed all available oxygen. But here is the haunting part. After the credits, the film displayed a text disclaimer. The catastrophic events you have just witnessed are, in all likelihood, less severe than the destruction that would actually occur in the event of a full nuclear strike against the United States. Even after all those cuts, from the script and from the footage, the filmmakers were telling you that what you just watched was still an understatement. Number 6. The nuclear cloud from the Starship Enterprise. The mushroom cloud effects in The Day After were created using a simple but ingenious practical method. The crew created the mushroom cloud with a surprisingly simple trick. They dropped thick cream into a large water tank, then filmed it from underneath as it spread and curled through the water. On camera, those slow, milky swirls looked like a massive cloud of smoke rising after a nuclear blast. But here's the detail most people don't know. That water tank was the exact same one Meyer had used just 1 year earlier to create the Mutara Nebula in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. The same physical rig that built one of science fiction's most beautiful space battle backdrops was repurposed to simulate nuclear annihilation on American soil. Number 7. 100 million and zero commercials. When The Day After aired on November 20th, 1983, an estimated 100 million people in nearly 39 million households watched the show. It earned a 46 Nielsen rating and a 62% audience share, making it the most watched made-for-television movie in American history, a record it still holds. But here is the detail that reveals just how risky this film was considered by corporate America. No sponsor would buy advertising time for the second half of the broadcast, the half that depicted the nuclear attack and its aftermath. So the entire second half of The Day After aired without a single commercial. 100 million people sat in their living rooms watching uninterrupted nuclear horror, with no car ads or cereal spots to break the tension. Before the film began, actor John Cullum, who played Farmer Jim Dahlberg, appeared on screen to personally warn viewers about the graphic content and to encourage parents with young children to watch together and discuss what they were about to see. ABC and its local stations also opened free phone hotlines, with counselors standing by in case viewers felt frightened or emotionally shaken after the broadcast. No television movie before or since has required that level of psychological preparation for its audience. Number 8. The Doctor Named After Hiroshima. One of the key characters in The Day After is Dr. Sam Hachia, a physician played by Calvin Young, who treats nuclear blast survivors at the University Hospital in Lawrence. That surname is not random. Dr. Sam Hachia is named after Dr. Michihiko Hachia, the real-life director of the Hiroshima Communications Hospital, who survived the atomic bombing in 1945. He kept a diary of the experience, published in English in 1955, as Hiroshima Diary, documenting day by day what it meant to treat patients when medicine itself had no precedent for the injuries. The naming is clearly a deliberate homage. Both men are physicians overwhelmed by a catastrophe that has no medical playbook, one in fiction, one in history. Number 9. The War Nobody Started. The Day After never clearly explains who fired the first ICBM, and that was not a scripting mistake. It was a deliberate choice. Meyer wanted to send a very specific message. In a nuclear war, who fires first no longer matters, because everyone ends up dead. The Department of Defense, or the Pentagon, had actually offered major support to the production. They could provide access to military bases, equipment, vehicles, technical advisors, and real military footage. But there was one condition. The film had to make it clear that the Soviets attacked first. Meyer and producer Robert Papazian refused. Why? Because if they agreed, the film would turn into a much simpler story. America was attacked by the Soviets. Viewers might walk away thinking the problem was the Soviet Union, not the nuclear system itself. Because of that refusal, the Pentagon did not fully cooperate. They also refused to provide real stock footage of mushroom clouds, forcing the production team to create their own nuclear explosion effects from scratch. Number 10. The real soldiers in the film. In several scenes in The Day After, the film cuts to American military personnel inside the Airborne Command Post, a military command aircraft used to coordinate a nuclear response if the United States is attacked. In the scene, they receive word that Soviet missiles are heading toward America. The moment looks shockingly realistic, almost like it is not acting at all, and that is because it really is not. The people on screen were not actors. The footage came from real military personnel conducting a drill, originally filmed for a 1979 PBS documentary called First Strike. That documentary imagined a Soviet surprise attack on America's nuclear forces, showing how the military might respond in a worst-case scenario. Meyer took that real documentary footage and inserted it into the movie to make the sequence feel less like a scripted TV drama and more like something terrifyingly close to reality. Number 11. The activist who stole the movie. While the film was still unfinished, Meyer was introduced through mutual friends to Paul Baran, an anti-nuclear PR strategist based in California. Baran visited Meyer's home and watched the rough cut. Then Meyer handed him a copy and said, "Do what you want with it, and don't tell me." Baran proceeded to launch a nationwide publicity campaign for an ABC movie without ABC's knowledge or consent. He traveled the country, organizing screenings for activists and reporters, building grassroots anticipation months before the air date. When Baran finally told ABC what he had been doing, the network panicked. Baran had taken control of the narrative, and if political or public backlash exploded, ABC could no longer quietly pull the film without making it look like censorship. The guerrilla campaign had made the film a national event before the network even scheduled it, and more importantly, it forced ABC into a corner. A movie many executives wanted to bury had become too public to disappear. Number 12. FEMA's survival plan was a phone book. Before production on The Day After, Nicholas Meyer and producer Robert Papazian visited FEMA headquarters in Kansas City to research the film. FEMA is the American government agency responsible for handling major emergencies, including national disasters. They wanted to know one thing: if nuclear war actually happened, what was the government's plan? And FEMA's answer stunned them. One official explained that the agency was experimenting with putting evacuation instructions inside telephone books in New England. The idea was that ordinary people could open their phone books and read what to do during a nuclear crisis. Then the official added, "In about 6 years, everyone should have them." Meyer later described FEMA as, in his words, a complete joke. The government's own emergency agency could not even distribute basic survival instructions in less than half a decade. Yet the doctrine of the era still acted as if a nation could somehow survive a nuclear war. Number 13. The president's voice was a fake. In the film, after the nuclear attack, a radio broadcast plays a message from the President of the United States addressing the shattered nation. For the original 1983 broadcast, that presidential voice was performed by an actor deliberately impersonating Ronald Reagan. The production team wanted the film to feel as contemporary and realistic as possible. And in 1983, hearing what sounded like the actual sitting president responding to nuclear war would have been deeply unsettling. But for reasons that have never been fully explained, the Reagan-mimicking voice was removed from all subsequent broadcasts and most home video releases, replaced with a generic, unidentifiable presidential voice. For over 3 decades, that original detail was lost. It was not until Kino Lorber released a restored Blu-ray in 2018 that the Reagan impersonation was finally heard again, 35 years after it first aired. Number 14. $75 to lose your hair. To film the scenes of radiation sickness aftermath, the production needed hundreds of extras who looked like they were dying of radiation exposure. The solution was blunt. They paid local residents of Lawrence, Kansas, $75 each to shave their heads completely bald, then applied prosthetic latex scar tissue and burn marks to their faces, plastered them with coats of artificial mud, and dressed them in tattered clothing. In one of the film's most haunting scenes, more than 1,000 Lawrence locals lay on cots inside the University of Kansas's Allen Fieldhouse basketball arena, dressed as nuclear blast survivors. These weren't professional actors. They were real people from the town that was being fictionally destroyed, lying in a real building they probably visited for basketball games, pretending to die. Number 15. The Man Who Thought It Was Real. During production on the day after, ABC filmed a scene inside Rusty's IGA, a supermarket in Lawrence, Kansas. The store was closed from 7 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon so the crew could shoot there. The scene they were filming showed panic buying, with people rushing through the aisles and stripping the shelves because they feared nuclear war was coming. But during the shoot, a local man arrived at the supermarket with his infant son, apparently unaware that a movie was being filmed. When he walked in and saw people running around, grabbing supplies, and turning the store into chaos, he thought it was real. Terrified, he immediately turned around and ran back to his car. For one brief moment, the film's fiction became indistinguishable from reality. The day after was never really about the bombs or the mushroom clouds. It was about ordinary people. The doctors, the farmers, the families, caught in a war none of them started and none of them could survive. More than 40 years later, those same weapons still sit in their silos, waiting. So here is the question worth sitting with. If the people who control those weapons had to watch what you just watched before making their decisions, would the world be any safer? If this film made you see that danger a little more clearly, take a second to like and subscribe because there are more forgotten stories like this one still waiting to be told.